Look, over the years in dosing testosterone, I've dialed in on many protocols. I've modified protocols to achieve different things. I've dialed in on 70 milligrams every fourth day, no HCG. I dialed in on 105 milligrams a week, daily intramuscular injections with 330 IU of HCG every day. Dialed in the sexual function that way. I've dialed in on 5 clicks of 100 milligram per milliliter scrotal cream every day with 330 IU of HCG every day. Dude, I dialed in on 4 clicks of 200 milligram cream on the scrotum with 250 IU of HCG every other day and 0.06 milligrams of Arimidex every 5th day. I've dialed in on 25 milligrams prop daily, on and on and on and on. But what you're going to find, and what I have found over the years with TRT, is that each protocol gives different things. Some protocols, like down on the lower end doses, you can dial into sexual function a lot easier, but you're going to have less energy and anabolism. On the higher end doses, you have more energy and more anabolism, but the sexual function is a little more tricky to dial in, but you can still do it. Just the ratios have to fall in place. So injection frequency, things like that, HCG dose really matter up at those higher doses. But one of the protocols that was particularly great for everything, meaning anabolism, energy, libido, erections, climax sensation, testicular cosmetics, semen volume, I want to discuss that protocol with you in this video to break down the T to E ratios, really the T to DHT to E ratios, what made it work, where my estrogen was, what the sexual function was like, how I dosed the AI, what made it work, and what would have made it not work. That's a very important part of this. All right, sit back, relax, let's get into this. All right, before we start the video, look, my company, Cortex Labs, is a TRT guidance and sexual dysfunction resolution company. You can hire me for consulting to fix libido and erections on TRT in under a minute in the description of this video, or get a host of digital products like Mastering Libido and Erections on TRT, Sourceless, Mastering Testosterone Cream for Libido and Erections, Mastering Testosterone Sipinate for libido and erections. All of these digital products right now are 40% off. That goes away by the end of this week, so jump on it now. Code's on the screen. Want to let you guys know I am bringing back full-time 3-month and 6-month coaching. It's just going to be a little bit before we get it there, and once it launches for another intake window, there's going to be a discount, so keep your mind open on that, and I'll announce it soon on the channel. All right, so let's get to the protocol first, and then we'll break down why it worked and what would have made it go catastrophically wrong, and generally how I felt. I want to say this was almost exactly 3 years ago, and this is what the protocol was. A total testosterone dosing for the week was 154 milligrams. I was doing at the time daily injections, so that's 22 milligrams a day, 250 IU of HCG every other day, and 0.125 milligrams of anastrozole every 10 days. So these were my numbers on this protocol. My total testosterone was 1050. 1050. All right, so 1050. So I was super physiologic, just above the top of the reference range. That's a good number for me. I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, but that's like right around the androgen threshold that I need for very, very good erections. Estradiol, right, with that 250 IU of HCG every other day and the 0.125 milligrams of Arimidex every 10 days, was measured both at 27, 30, and 35 through the effect duration window of that 10-day period. So I basically kept it in a very, very narrow window of about 8 points or something. So we'll couch it at 30. Total testosterone of 1050, estradiol at 30. Listen, you would be very hard-pressed to find a man on TRT with those numbers that doesn't have stellar sexual function. I mean, that is a phenomenal ratio to be in. Okay, I did use 5 milligrams of tadalafil every day just because I was taking it at the time and I'd been taking it prior and I took it for many months after, but I didn't require it. It just added a little bit of extra rigidity. 5 milligrams for me is not a substantially powerful input for, PD5 inhibition. All right, let's talk about what the sexual experience was for me. This was, again, years back, and I was just kind of a single guy that was dating, not really interested in being in a relationship. EQ at night, so nocturnals and morning erections, were great. That's always going to happen when you've got controlled estrogen but not too low estrogen and you've crossed your androgenic threshold for erections. Erections for penetrative sex, great. Zero problem getting aroused, zero problem staying aroused, zero problem throughout the entirety of the duration of the act. Nice and rigid, didn't have to focus, no problems there. The sensation was phenomenal, right? Okay, that really matters. If you're in an imbalanced ratio of specifically estradiol being out of whack with your total T and your DHT, sensation is like one of the first things to go south. All the elements need to be there. I mean, for me, HCG is a big driver of sensation, but HCG is also a driver of estradiol. So, controlling that with that rather largish dose of HCG with a medium style, kind of moderately high dose of testosterone, that was necessary for me for sensation to be in the right place. Climax. This is the really unique thing about that protocol. It's very controllable. Like when you were a natty and everything worked really, really good, you could kind of control the climax. Not too fast, not long and drawn out. Now, so that's the protocol. Let's talk about why this worked. Generally, I have good erections and libido, specifically with estrogen between 15 and 30. Now, down at the 15s, it usually means I have lower end tests and I feel less anabolic and less energized. I might get mild joint pain around 15 picograms per milliliter of estradiol. But libido and erections in that zone have always been great for me personally. But in the end, the ratio worked, right? Total T of 1,000, estrogen at 30. Again, you could be hard pressed to find a guy that has those numbers that doesn't have good sexual function. It's a really great place to be. Number two reason why it worked is the estrogen did not crash. It stayed very stable, right? It fluctuated a bit between the every 10-day Arimidex usage, but it never went over my erection threshold, which is above 55 picograms per milliliter, and it never went low enough to cause me a lack of libido or lack of sensation or joint pain or any of that stuff. I was just right in the sweet spot, which leads me to the third reason it worked. I had a workable androgen threshold where erections worked great. You can make erection quality work at lower end or lowish doses, but again, you risk losing a lot of things: anabolism, energy, well-being. You lose those at the lower doses to the extent you might have had them at higher doses or moderate TRT doses like 140, 170 milligrams a week. But the higher you go on dosing, so long as the other variables are controlled, the more DHT you're going to have. And thus, the better erection quality is going to be. I mean, erection quality really relies on adequate dihydrotestosterone signaling. So, I mean, you're going to have better EQ, nocturnals, morning erections, easy tactile erectile inducing properties, like you can to the touch yourself induce erection quality. On some TRT protocols, you lose that as the ratios aren't working for you. Number four, enough testicular support, both to offset the AI, but provide enough E2 and maintain testicular size cosmetics, good sensation, good climax, and then semen dynamics. So that's why it worked for me. Again, this stuff isn't rocket science, and those are generally the things that people need to be dialed in on TRT, so keep that in mind. Again, it's really, really hard to find people that do not need HCG in their protocols. Some people can make it work. Largely, the neurosteroidal stuff, the intratesticular hormone environment, the contribution of estradiol to the situation, especially if you're using an AI, very useful. Now, all of that said, in this pretty golden protocol, I'll talk about why I ultimately moved from it, because there was one thing that I did not like about it, and I'll explain that in a second. Let's look at how the protocol could have gone wrong, right? If I had made the wrong decisions on dosing certain things, this protocol could have been pretty crappy. Number one thing that could have gone wrong is dosing the AI too frequently. People often make this mistake where they're not quite probing where the estrogen goes in a 7 to 10 day period after just one dose of Arimidex, right? In the beginning, when you're probing, all you're trying to figure out is what dose and what frequency. You're not even trying to dial in. You're just probing first. You take your 0.125, you wait 7 to 10 days, you measure the estradiol at peak and trough of the drug. Peak of the drugs like day 2, day 3, trough of the drugs day 7 to day 10. If I had ended up on every 7 days of 0.125 milligrams of Arimidex, the E2 would have landed in a great place for 2-3 weeks, possibly even 4 weeks, but probably not any longer than that. But eventually it just would have went down into an imbalance ratio of just a little bit too low estradiol, which for me and a lot of people induced by an AI actually changes the effect compared to if it's induced naturally. Meaning if you take your estrogen to 20 or 15 with an AI, the feel is different than if it naturally falls down there. You typically tend to lose libido a little bit if the AI is taking the estrogen too low. Instead of staying at 30 to 30 or 27 to 35, if I did every 7 days or every 6 days with the anastrozole, I would have gone down 27, 25. It would have trended downward 20. If that kept going, I'd probably end up in the teens and things wouldn't be right. The second thing that could have gone wrong, because this was virtually perfect for all the feels and the sexual function. It's just dosing too much HCG. People make that mistake too. 500 IU every other day, 500 IU 3 times a week. If people are dosing 3,000 IU a week because they were told that's what they need for fertility. More HCG in that particular case would skew the DHT TDE ratio, and I think erection quality, right, based on my experience, would have been less rigid at that time. With just say I dosed 300 IU of HCG every other day, or 350 or 500, still could have been workable, but erection quality would have suffered. Now, let's talk about why I ultimately chose to move off of that protocol. Purely, I didn't want to continue inhibiting aromatase. That's the only reason I changed. Anabolism, energy, sexual function was great. I don't want to inhibit aromatase forever. Ideally, you can foster a protocol where you can naturally land in good ratios for sexual function and well-being while not having to manufacture the right state with an additional ancillary that convolutes the protocol and could potentially long-term have negative health consequences, as AIs might. In the end, you can dial in on various protocols: cream, prop, enethate, cypionate, spread out dose, and frequent injections, AI, no AI, HCG low dose, HCG high dose, test low dose. There are caveats to most of them, and you've got to just figure out what's going to work for you where you're happy. Listen, if you're struggling on TRT specifically to dial in a protocol that is a forever protocol that achieves everything, and if you're suffering with libido and erection problems, this is pretty much all I work on in doing coaching and consulting. You can hire me for a sexual function resolution consult in under a minute at livecortex.com or down in the description of this video. Go book me. Let's get it done. Let's have you walking away with libido, erections, sensation, climax, energy, anabolism. This is what I'm an expert on. For an extremely limited time, meaning it's going to end at the end of this week, Mastering Libido and Erections on TRT, the Sexual Function Digital Playbook, is 40% off. Huge discount. The code is on the screen. Go get it cheap right now because it's going back to regular price by the end of the week. The same thing applies for Mastering Testosterone Cream for Libido and Erections, okay? This is a video course, shows you how to dose cream in a way that gives you the sexual function. It's 40% off. Code is on the screen. Instant download. It is yours forever. Same thing with Source List. Sometimes you need to go grab some ancillaries. That's what Source List is about, a safe, vetted list of things you just might need to optimize your protocol. 40% off. Code's on the screen. Lastly, Mastering Testosterone Cypionate. One of the hardest esters to master, but if you know the framework on how to approach dialing in, you'll dial in the sexual function. That's what this video course is about. Laying down that framework. 40% off. Instant download can be yours now. Down below. My brothers in test. It's been an absolute pleasure hanging out with you. Hope you had a great weekend. Much more content coming this week, so look forward to it. Like the video, bro. Need you to like the video. If you're still here, if you made it this long, dude, please hit the like button. Makes a big difference. Otherwise, sub to the channel. Listen, this is all we talk about, and I have an uncanny ability to pattern recognize when it comes to dialing in TRT the right way, and that's all we talk about on this channel. I'd love to have you on board. Otherwise, if you want to know about my current protocol, specifically where the bloods are, what the dosing is, how I feel, I actually did a breakdown on it. All right, that video is right here, so go ahead and click that and watch it. I think you're going to get some entertainment value and some education value from it. All right, bro, kick ass, rock on, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll talk to you on the next one.